All right. Hello again, adventures, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog number, I think 224. I don't know. There's lots of numbers. Numbers are hard to remember. Yeah, 224. Okay, so today, I need a drink first. Let's talk about football. No. I was having a conversation with some of my players because we weren't able to play on Wednesday due to some scheduling conflicts, but some of the players were there, and so we just kind of sat around and chatted. And we were talking. We eventually got on to the topic of Critical Role. And in particular, the differences between Campaign 3 and Campaign 2, and how I have just never been able to get into Campaign 3. And I think, and one of the very common, criticisms that I will admit is probably blown out of proportion by people that just like to complain about Critical Role, but it does have some merit, is Campaign 3 feels really incohesive and very kind of scattered. And the party doesn't really feel like a party. And I decided to kind of compare the party in Campaign 3, Bell's Hells, with the party in Campaign 2, the Mighty Nine. And one of the things, if you go back in my video years and years and years ago, right after the first episode of Campaign 2, I did a review of the episode where I talked about it. And one of the things that I mentioned was the first episode of Campaign 2 is a masterclass in how to bring a party together and make them want to work together. Because if you remember way back in Campaign 2, when they first started out, they were actually a couple different groups that all just kind of meshed together. You had... wow, I'm completely drawing a blank on names. There we go. I'm just going to have the names in front of me because it's just significantly easier. All right, so you had Caleb and Knott. Were their own little group that was coming in. And then you had Ford, Jester, and I think, was it Yasha that was with them? No, it's Ford, Jester, and Bo were all together. And then Molly Mock kind of came in. And I can't remember how they introduced Yasha as well. But they were, effectively you had two groups and then a couple lone wolves. And they all kind of came together into this really great conglomeration of people because they had this kind of inciting incident. And they all were very interconnected. And that was really, really interesting. And the entire first episode of Campaign 2 is just such a great example of how to bring a bunch of characters together. When you look at Campaign 3, you don't have this the same thing that happened. Probably the biggest quote unquote problem with the initial inciting incident of Campaign 3 is a couple of the characters already had a group that they were connected with and then had to kind of break those ties to join a new group. One of the characters, Slight, Slight spoiler here. One of the characters was never meant to be a full-time Kika character. Travis's original character for Campaign 3 was Bertrand Bell. And he was always, from the very beginning, designed to be a character that was going to die. And then we also had Robbie's character, Dorian, who, again, was never meant to be a part of the full cast. He was always meant to be a guest character because he would have his own group to deal with. So the initial kind of inciting incident of Campaign 3 didn't really work. And so I kind of compared the difference between Campaign 2 and Campaign 3 to the idea of a baseball team versus a football team. For anyone that is unaware of how football works, American football specifically, American football is what I call an individualistic team sport. What I mean by that is, during a game, the vast majority of the team could play without anyone else there. They have a very, very specific thing that they do, and they really don't interact with any other member of the team. Now, obviously, there are some things, audibles, or play calling and stuff, and obviously the quarterback has to interact with a bunch of different groups. But once the play is called, everyone just sits there and focuses on their specific job, and that's it. The entire rest of the team could cease to exist, and it wouldn't affect their job in any way, shape, or form, aside from, again, the quarterback. The quarterback is the only person that has to actually be aware of what's going on with anybody else on the field. So, as much as, yes, it is a team sport, it is a very individualistic team sport in the idea that once you start playing, no one else really matters but you. When you look at baseball, other than when you're up at bat, and even then, not really, baseball requires every person on the team to know everything that's going on, because it's going to change how you play your position. The pitcher has to be aware of where all the runners are, as does everybody else on the field. Because if a pop fly gets shot out to left field, they have to know, okay, am I going to be hitting my cutoff man? Am I going to be throwing to third? Am I going to be throwing to second? Am I going to be throwing to first? Am I going to be throwing home? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing with this ball? And the only way that you know that is you have to know where everything else is going on. And depending on where the ball is hit, it changes completely what your job is going to be. Especially in the infield, the shortstop may be covering second. They may be heading out into the field itself. They may be doing a whole lot of nothing. There's so many different variables, but all of them require everybody on the field to know what's going on. Everyone needs to know where the runners are. Everybody needs to know where the tying run is, where the lead run is. And even when you're up at bat, you still have to know what else is going on. It's not just you against the pitcher when you're at bat. You have to know, okay, well, we've got runners on first and third, and so if I do this particular thing, then we can get the run on first as the second. We can load the bases because the next person in the lineup is our heavy hitter, and that might get us, 2 or 3 runs easily, maybe even a grand slam, who knows. Everything is about working together. It's one of the reasons I like baseball a lot more than I like football. When we compare Bell's Hells to the Mighty Nine, the Mighty Nine is I'll try this one more time. The Mighty Nine is a baseball team. Bell's Hells is a football team. Bell's Hells is a bunch of individual characters that happen to be having their own stories happen near each other. But they're not really a cohesive group. And because of that, when one person becomes the main focus for an arc or something, everything just feels really, really weird because the arcs themselves are not really that interconnected in any way, shape, or form. And the characters themselves, well, yes, they do have relationships and the things like that. They always feel like they're not really a cohesive unit. They're just kind of adventuring around each other. Whereas every time something happened, like when stuff happened for Ford, Jester would be very invested, which also got literally everybody else invested in well. And then the whole thing with the Traveler and all that, everybody got invested in that. And like, they're just different groups. So now that we're, now that we're 10 minutes into the video, purpose of this video, I want to talk about what is it that makes a good inciting incident. I have started quite a few different campaigns that have run for years. So I feel like I'm fairly well versed in the idea. So first of all, what is an inciting incident? An inciting incident is actually a term I learned when I was going to school for theater. But the inciting incident is effectively what... I need another drink. The inciting incident is effectively what starts the plot of the play along. If you look at something like Guys and Dolls, the inciting incident is the bet between Sky Masterson and Nathan Detroit. And you can actually kind of argue that the inciting incident is actually the craps game and it getting canceled. That's basically what causes the entire show to happen. So for a D&D campaign or a tabletop RPG campaign in general, the inciting incident is going to be what is it that causes everything to happen in the campaign. It's generally your first session. And there's a few things that you want to do to make an inciting incident actually create a cohesive group. So the first thing that you want to focus on for a good inciting incident is there has to be a reason for all of the characters to be there. An extremely common trope for an inciting incident is you all meet in a bar or a tavern. And one of the reasons why it's such a common trope is taverns in general were kind of the social meeting place of most small towns and stuff like that. So it was extremely common for people to go there. And then if we're talking about like D&D and tropes in D&D, taverns are where you get jobs. Like that's what it is. So having your inciting incident, to boil it down to something more generic, having your inciting incident start in a place where everyone just really has to be, an adventuring guild, the tavern. You could even have it, the gate to get into the town. Just somewhere that forces all the players to be in the same place at the same time is generally a good idea. What I tend to do to avoid using, you started in a tavern, I write custom hooks for every one of my players that plays in a game with me. And the custom hook will always have them coming to a certain spot for a purpose. Sometimes it's very, very simple. You're coming here because there's work here or something like that. Other times, I like to leave it a little bit more esoteric to make it feel a little more like destiny is calling. So, like, you woke up 3 days ago. You woke up and you felt this strange pulling, this strange almost energy, feeling like it was drawing you to a certain place. You didn't know what that place was, but you knew as soon as you got there, you would know it. That gives it kind of a destiny feeling. And because the player themselves and the character doesn't know why they're being pulled, gives them a very large motivation to get there. And then if they meet a bunch of other people that all had a similar experience, that creates a bond, which is the second thing that you need. Part of the inciting incident needs to be something that creates some sort of bond between them. Something that's really, really common, mostly because it's a really effective method of doing this, is they get into a fight together. I have actually started a campaign by having everyone start in a tavern and then get into a bar fight. It's unbelievably simple. If you watch the first episode of the first campaign of Critical Role, that's literally what happens. Is they're all in a bar and they get into a bar fight. Now, this particular group had been adventuring together for a couple of years at that point of real world time. In game time, I think it had been at least a year that Vox Machina had been together. But anything that forces them to work together is a good way to do it. And in tabletop RPGs, if the tabletop RPG is designed well, you really do have to understand how to work together to get through combat. So a really, really simple, easy way to make a bond for a new party of players, put them into combat, force them into a situation where they have to defend each other. It could be, like I said, bar fights are really, really fun ways to start combat because they tend to be very low danger. You know, generally the worst thing that's going to happen in a bar fight is you lose a couple teeth and, you know, you wake up in the drunk tank. So even if they do poorly, they don't have to worry about rolling a new character or anything like that. It's a very low stakes, but it can feel very high stakes due to the fact that bar fights, the reason that you get into a bar fight is not because you're in mortal danger. You get into a bar fight for bragging rights and pride. And so either winning together or losing together, the party will develop a group pride that is either damaged by the bar fight, and then they kind of, you know, get together due to the fact that they all got beat by the same people, or what happens a little bit more often is everything goes really well, and they now have this collective pride amongst each other. And getting the bar fight started can be really simple. It could be something as simple as a couple bullies could come in and, you know, do one of those things like they run into you or they spill some beer or something. They go, "Hey, you made me spill my beer. I think that means that you owe me a new one." You know, something like that. Nobody likes bullies, and having other people there to kind of back you up and, you know, take some punches when it's just one person that's getting into it, that builds bonds very, very quickly. There can also be, you know, more specific. Somebody comes in specifically to pick a fight with one of the characters, and the rest of the characters very quickly aren't really given a choice. They are forced to choose sides, and the aggressor always looks like the bad guy. So bar fights are really, really effective ways to do that. However, they're not the only thing. One of the things I do tend to recommend if you're running a new table is your first session with people that have never played an RPG before or have never played D&D. The first session should have a role-playing encounter. It should have some situation where they get the ability to use their skills, and then there should be combat. Those three things need to be in an introductory adventure. And so a bar fight is a really, really good way to get rid of two of those things right off the bat. Because it's going to start off with a social encounter. And then depending on how it goes, it's going to turn into a fight that if they do well in the social encounter, it may be that they get some kind of benefit. Maybe the other bar patrons help them out, and so there's physically less people that they have to deal with. Whereas if they do poorly, maybe more people show up. Your social encounters in general should always have results that affect the rest of the game. Because if they do something and it has no effect on anything, then it was really a wasted time. So fights, very, very good way to have that bonding experience. At the same time, a skills challenge or something else that forces them to work together can be just as effective as a bar fight. They come in, maybe they witness something, and or they're all falsely accused of something. Like this one's a really, really fun one. It takes a little bit more work on the DM's part, but the party comes together for, again, some reason. And if you want to go with this route, a really, really great way to do this is each one of the characters gets a message from some unknown sender that is somehow connected to whatever their motivation is. If their motivation is money, they're going to get paid for this. Their motivation is like finding their lost sibling. Hey, I've got some information on where, Benny is. If their motivation is avenging the killer of their father, the six-fingered man, hey, I saw a dude with 6 fingers, come to this place and I'll tell you where. But give them all some kind of note with no sender or anything. Have them all meet at a specific time and place. And then when they get there, they realize that a crime has been committed in that place. They could find a body there. They could be standing around and hear alarms go off. Maybe an alarm spell goes off. And before they have the ability to do anything, the authorities are already there. And they go, hey, you're under arrest for blah, 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 blah. And so the inciting incident is them being falsely accused of a crime. And having to deal with it, whether that's escaping from prison, whether it's proving their own innocence, whatever it is going to force them to work together and create bonds. One of the reasons I really enjoy that as a plot hook for a new campaign is it already creates a known unknown villain. What I mean by that is somebody set them up. And none of the players nor the characters they are playing knows who. But somehow this person knew enough about each member of the group that they could give them, basically, they found the one carrot that was most appealing to each person and put it on a stick for them and led them into the exact place that they wanted to be. And so that instantly not only, again, creates that bond, but also creates this drive in them to go, well, who the hell is this guy and what is he doing? And the reason why they specifically were chosen can become a part of the plot, or it could be as simple as they needed patsies and they found them. And that was all it was. They found, 4 people that they're like, hey, these are 4 different people that, due to what they were already doing in the town, we were able to figure out something that motivated them. And we need 4 people or 5 people, however big the party is. We need 5 people to take the fall for this. It's not an uncommon thing for career criminals to find patsies, not because they were targeting them specifically, but they were just an opportunistic person. They were, in the right place at the right time, and they found the right way to motivate them to be in the wrong place at the right time. Good inciting incident. Something needs to bring the party together. Second thing, there needs to be a bonding experience. Combat is the easiest one. Skills challenges can be really, really good as well, but something that forces the players to work together and to kind of learn what everybody's role in the party is going to be. A good D&D group, everybody is going to have their own thing that they're really good at. You might have one person that's really good at magic, another person that's just armored up to the nines and is impossible to hit. Another person's the rogue. There's always one of those. There's going to be one person that maybe be the face of the group. Everybody's going to have their own little thing that they are an expert in. And this is another thing where backgrounds, which are in tons and tons and tons of different RPGs, and I think a lot of DMs sleep on that. your background or whatever it was you did before becoming an adventurer are really, really useful in helping the players to kind of have their own little niche. If you have the criminal background, it doesn't really matter what your skills are as far as like what skills you're proficient in and which ones you aren't. The mere fact that you were a criminal means you have knowledge of criminal enterprises. So in the idea of them all getting framed, the person with the criminal background could very easily go, "Oh, guys, I think I might know who did this. There's this dude that runs in similar circles to a guy I know that's definitely not me. This is kind of his MO." And those are things that, as the DM, you can use to help, again, give them a reason to work together. Because now, doesn't matter what the rest of the party does, there's one person in the party that now has a connection to everything that they want to get done. So now that person has become not only important to the story, but it's become important to the other players. Because now that person can help them get the justice or revenge or whatever it is that they want, or just help them to clear their name, stuff like that. So yeah, the final thing you need in a good kind of inciting incident introductory adventure is it needs to lead to something bigger. What I mean by that is the inciting incident should be something that helps them bond or anything, but it should lead to something else. They get into a bar fight and they win. Somebody else notices that and goes, "Hey, you guys work well together. I'd like to hire you for something." Or what's even more fun, they win. They still get arrested because they were in a bar fight, but they're let out very quickly. And then they find out that one of the people that they beat up has very powerful friends. And now they have a target on their back that can, again, lead to other things. Another thing that's really, really fun to do in a situation like that is they don't find out that they have a target on their back until after they are, kidnapped and put in front of the person that now has a target on their back. They go, "Hey, you beat up my nephew. I'm not very happy about that." "Oh, shit." And now you're sitting in front of the mafia and he's going, "I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse." And they basically go, "So this is how it's going to work. Either we can take payment out of your bodies, or you can do a job for me." And that can be what gets them going. But the inciting incident in and of itself has to lead to something else. Again, the idea of you feel this strange, pull to get you to a place, and then something happens in that place, an inciting incident. Well, you still haven't explained what it was that made you come there. Well, that's going to lead to bigger things. The fact that you were all targeted by this as the same person. Well, yeah, you're able to kind of get out of that, prove your innocence, but there was something about that caused you all to be targeted. Maybe that person was working for someone else. Maybe the fact that you were all targeted means that you guys, there's a connection between you that none of you guys knew existed, but it leads to something bigger. That's what's going to make a really strong campaign that the players want to get to the end of, as opposed to just playing so that they have some D&D to play. So yeah, I hope you guys find this is interesting. And like I said in the beginning, a good inciting incident that does all of those things is going to create effectively a baseball team, like the Mighty Nine. It's going to be a bunch of people that all are aware of what's going on with the other people, and they all care about each other. A bad inciting incident where a bunch of the people that are part of the inciting incident are going to be leaving and everybody has their own motivations, you're going to create a football team. They're all playing together, but it's mostly that they're adventuring at the same time in the same place. So, interested to hear what you guys think about this as a subject. For my DMs out there, do you guys have any good stories of a session one that just went super, super well, that established a really, really great rapport between all of the player characters? Or do you have an inciting incident that went super badly, that maybe derailed the entire campaign right there, or it ended a few months later or something like that? Let me know in the comments down below. Players as well, do you have a story of an inciting incident that you really enjoyed, that created really strong bonds between you and the people you were playing with? Or again, the exact opposite. Do you remember a game that you played in that you're just like, wow, this is the most pointless thing ever, and I feel like there's no purpose for my character being here? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, it is all for me today. I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.